I'm Aaron Sagers, and this is Talking Strange. Hey there, spooky nerds, and welcome to Talking Strange, a paranormal pop culture show with the Den of Geek Network. I'm your host, journalist, author, and researcher of weird things, Aaron Sagers. You can also catch me on 28 Days Haunted on Netflix and Paranormal Caught on Camera on Travel Channel and the Max streaming service. My guests this episode. First up, we have Alex Winter, who you know from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as Bill S. Preston, Esquire, and you know him from Lost Boys, Freaked, and as the director of films such as the Zappa doc. I'm also joined by Jonah Ray Rodrigues from MST3K, The Meltdown with Jonah and Kamel, and he is the director of Third Eye, the Felicia Day audio adventure on Audible. Jonah has also joined me a couple times on Talking Strange in the past, so it's good to have him back. Together, they are in the new Shudder horror comedy Destroy All Neighbors, which is directed by Josh Forbes and written by Jared Logan, Charles Pieper, and Mike Benner, with Winter and Rodrigues producing as well as starring in it. Here's the synopsis for the movie, available January 12 on Shudder. William Brown, played by Rodrigues, is a neurotic, self-absorbed musician determined to finish his prog-rock magnum opus. He faces a creative roadblock in the form of a noisy and grotesque neighbor named Vlad, played by Winter. Finally working up the nerve to demand that Vlad keep it down, William inadvertently decapitates him. But while attempting to cover up one murder, William's accidental reign of terror causes victims to pile up and become undead corpses who torment and create more bloody detours on his road to prog-rock Valhalla. Destroy All Neighbors is a twisted splatter-comedy about a deranged journey of self-discovery full of goopy practical effects, a well-known ensemble cast, and lots of blood. And I have to say, I love that word goop, because I got to tell you, I watched this and it is a lot of fun. It's something that feels both very much of the moment as well as having a retro vibe with lots of goop and gore and funny gags, ton of practical effects, cool puppetry, and monster makeup. I had a blast with this one. So, okay, let's get into it with Jonah Ray Rodrigues and Alex Winter from Destroy All Neighbors. Okay, so Destroy All Neighbors. What I love about this to begin with is one of the descriptions I read in the PR write-up was a twisted splatter comedy about a deranged journey of self-discovery. This is I got a kick out of this because it's one of those films that it wears on its sleeve precisely everything it wants to be and what we can expect from it, from the trippy opening sequence to the practical gory effects. Was that sort of the initial appeal for each of you to come to this, not only to star in it, but produce it? Jonah, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, when Josh Forbes approached me with the idea with the script that he wrote with Charlie Pieper, he said, I kind of want to make something that's like not necessarily a throwback, but just, make those types of movies we used to love growing up. He says, like, I want it to kind of feel like, a little Barton Fink, a little Delicatessen, and a little Evil Dead 2. And I was like, oh, that's my favorite kind of shit, and so I was like, immediately, like, I was like, yeah, we should do it all practical. Like, he's like, yeah, we've been talking to Gabe Bartalos. I was like, oh, Gabe Bartalos from, Leprechaun and Basket Case and Brain Damage it was always the appeal for me for doing it. And anything I do is always that kind of thing where it's like, what will check the box of the stuff that I loved when I was a kid that made me feel a little less lonely. And like, it's like, if I can try and make those types of things, I'm always going to be in. And having Alex involved is like, kind of like, it's perfect.
Yeah, Alex, I want you to add to that, but also, yeah, Evil Dead 2 is like that Tom Savini vibe to it. The Burbs. It's I don't know what else I'm missing in the DNA of this, but it kind of harkens back to me as a nerdy horror monster kid from the 80s. But Alex, why don't you add to that?
Well, as a nerdy horror monster kid from the 80s, look, I've known Jonah for a while, and I like doing this kind of work when it's specific, and it has not only kind of like the right tone, but also a collective group of people that share the same sensibilities, because it really is a communal thing to make films like this that have on this budget level, and also just practical effects and in-camera effects, and that mix of comedy within the horror that requires improv skills. And it's a really specific thing, and it's uncommon to get it. So I love that from the get-go. And then, knowing that we had someone like Gabe and then Bill Corso, who I've been working with forever, who came on, I knew that we'd have such an incredibly strong team on the makeup and practical effects side that I would be well covered, which really just means I can do my thing, that I can work with Jonah and be there and, sort of just act and not worry. It was an exciting possibility. It wasn't without a lot of challenges. Like Jonah and I are producers on it, as much from necessity as desire, just because it really just takes a lot. You can't just say, oh, I'll show up. Let me know when I need to come back for the shoot. It's not one of those movies. We were, from the moment Jonah brought me on, I was on, and we were all working together all the time, all the way through till now.
Yeah. And that's like, that's Alex and I, that's how, we're, different kind of like generation, but like same scene essentially. But like the self-starting DIY, just like, when both of us make stuff, we make our own stuff. And, it's like, we'll sometimes show up as actors or in other people's things, but like when it's our thing, it's like, we know how to do all the skills, and we know how to, we have like all these, things that we do because we've had to do it our entire lives.
Yeah, and Jonah jokes about the fact that I told him no when he initially asked me to be in this, but I mean, the reason wasn't because of the character or the script. It was because of what he just said. It's like, signing on to this doesn't mean that like other jobs I do as an actor, where like I literally do show, I don't get rehearsals even if I want them in this day and age, right? So like I show up the first time I'm meeting the directors when someone yells action. I knew that would not be this, that if I was going to do prosthetics and work with on this kind of thing, it really would be a commitment. But I also knew it'd be a lot of fun, because it is a type of filmmaking that I'm more wired to do.
Was this a COVID production?
I mean, isn't everything now?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
there's still COVID productions.
Yeah.
Right?
We did it. We shot it like August, September-ish of 2022. And so COVID protocols were still, everyone had to mask and test daily. Had the shields on.
I think we lost one person. Is that right? Or is that a different? No, but seriously, did somebody get right? Yeah. Some PA went down, I think, at one point.
Yeah, but hopefully it's fine now, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Nothing like that. Yeah. I just mean that it was COVID era in that sense, that a lot of the projects I did that year, it was sort of enough away from it that almost everyone was fine, and maybe you get one person who was okay but had to leave because they were testing positive.
Yeah.
It was that kind of that. Everyone was masked who wasn't on camera.
Well, I guess the reason I asked that is, obviously this kind of like fun, bizarre horror vibes comedy has been out for a long time, but was there something about this time frame that made it an especially good time to take sort of a bizarre, weird swing at this kind of story? Jonah, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, it's the amount of time it takes to make anything. It's like it's like by the time you're like, oh, no one's doing this right now, let's like try and get this going. But in that time, someone comes out with like Psycho Gorman, or someone comes out with something with like practical effects, and and you can never, the zeitgeist and the kind of cosmic unconsciousness will always kind of build these things and have them like start to come out like it's like a preconceived thought. of like, oh, that's what the scene is, but just I think it's the general want of like people getting to a certain age who want to make a certain kind of thing and then get to make it. And for us, it was like we weren't thinking about like, is this the right time, or is this the right style of movie that could sell right now? It's like we wanted to not think that. We wanted to just go like, let's make that movie we want to make and do anything we can to make that movie.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we had the same attitude when we did Bill and Ted 3, which had some prosthetics in it, and but it wasn't like, oh, let's be retro, like let's do something, because we were making that movie for a new audience, and the studio specifically did not want us to make a retro movie. This is just what we like to do. Yeah. Like we all got together and was like, what makes us laugh? Like, let's see us playing convicts, or let's, it's and I think it's similar here. I think the only thing that is maybe not of the times, but speaks to the times is just, in the early 20s, the early part of 2020, 2021, you had COVID, but you also really had, you were really feeling the pain of the kind of the demise of the film, cinema, and less movies were going to theaters, and streaming hadn't quite gotten itself organized yet. So for us, I think having something like Shudder exist suddenly was like, oh, now you have more of these kind of curated boutique, going for a certain audience, more like the way the movies used to be. Because this movie wouldn't, like you talk about Psycho Gorman, the movie wouldn't have got made, I don't think. And if it did, I'm not sure anyone would have ever seen it. So I think, having it be sort of in this new era of streaming where you've got kind of more curated platforms like Shudder also was a motivator. Like, let's, this will fit really well within their wheelhouse.
Yeah. So I would say that I enjoy prog rock, but I would not say that I have a deep abiding passion for it, especially to the level of the character William, this elder millennial that seems super into it. I don't know. I'm sure you're getting this question a lot, but what was your familiarity with prog rock heading into this? And I think Jonah, I've read or heard that you were more of a punk kid growing up, but did this peel back some layer of deep prog passion?
I don't really like many songs over 90 seconds, which is, even just a maybe swelling intro to any prog rock song is like double that time. I appreciate it. A joke I always had about the band Cream, which I would say is kind of early, like reminiscent of like starting to be like prog, at least a little bit. Like I would always say, Cream is a kind of a band that was like, everyone's like, hey, what if we all soloed all the time? It's like, and to me, it's always just like, it feels like showing off. It feels like, this like bravado, this, like ego, just like, let me just shred and let's get all these ideas in. I just want to know, no, give me an idea. Give me a simple idea. Oh, hey, hello. I'll be right there. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, a roofer is here.
So I'll pick up from where Jonah left off.
So anyway, I don't really like prog, but I appreciate it now as I get older, and I just like to go and jam with my friends. I will be right back.
Yeah, I mean I'm the old guy who does like prog. I made the Zappa doc. I spent years in that world. I spent my youth going to King Crimson shows. I don't like all prog. But it was fun to work on this because, while Jonah may not like prog as much as I do, or same for like Ryan Katner, who is in the film and also composed the score with Brett Morris, who is obviously mostly known for being the lead of the the amazing Man Man band. Everybody on set was so musically educated. So we really were having a lot of fun riffing on the absurdity of music and how we could lampoon the music and sort of what we could do to dig into making light of a very arcane form of genre of music.
The prosthetics, by the way, the makeup effects are great. And I knew you had worked with Bill Corso before, and I know Gabe Bartalos. Although I have to admit that even though I knew Gabe Bartalos, it still took me a minute to connect the dots between Vlad and Leprechaun, which I loved when I did connect those dots. But well, first off, is there more of a Vlad backstory? This character of a vaguely, I don't know, Eastern European, maybe slightly Irish. I don't know exactly what he is, but this guy that's a short, stout guy. Is there more of that Vlad backstory either in your head or on the page somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a character actor, so I'm always building characters, whether they're in prosthetics or not. I do a lot of work. That's part of my training, but it's like physical work and vocal work and backstory and a life for this person. And I said that to Josh Forbes when we started, was that I wanted Vlad to be a living, breathing human being and not just a monster in prosthetics. And it doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't need to be conveyed to the audience. But my accent was specific because of where I was from, and there were things that I had Gabe build into my makeup that reflected where I was from culturally, like the tattoos, what those tattoos are, why I have them, things like that. So I did a ton of work on that kind of stuff. And honestly, that's the fun of acting for me. The fun of acting is building a character. Obviously you have to come through, and that's where the truth of it and all that comes in. But and even for something as absurd and ludicrous as this, I'm not going to do any less work than I'll do on anything else. And I also think that also helps you emote through the makeup, which is really important. I think the more of a character that you've built, and the more kind of that's inside you, your body, then the more you can express that through the makeup, and then the makeup takes on a life, because you have to express a little more than you normally would when you're in prosthetics in order for it to stay alive. If you don't do anything, you kind of die. You become kind of a dead character right away.
I mean, is there anything you can share about the pre-movie Vlad that would, I mean, we see this picture of him with a wife and daughter, I'm assuming, I think, or wife and child, but anything you can share about him?
No, I just had him. He's a Romanian refugee, from a war-torn country, and saw some terrible things happen and did some terrible things, and is basically kind of hiding out, not like as a refugee, but he's sort of living his life in a very quiet way. He's probably driving an Uber, and is not dead, but kind of dead, from the things that have happened in his past. So,
there's this, when we have our first sort of real interaction in the apartment between Vlad and William, and this sort of fight, but it's really William's not really fighting Vlad. It's Vlad making William fight Vlad. And do you think on some level, this character of Vlad, is it trying to make William step up, sort of man up and take responsibility, or is it more of a bullying situation? Because I kind of could see it both ways.
Look, we did a lot of writing on that sequence, and we did a lot of choreographing work on that sequence. It's, a very pivotal scene, but it's also a lot of fun. It was also very challenging to shoot. But at the end of the day, Vlad is a trickster. That's why the film ends the way that it does. He's got a good heart, I think, and I think he genuinely cares about Will, and he's kind of lonely. But he is fucking with him. There's no doubt about it. And he wants to get a rise out of him. But I think there's a camaraderie between the two guys, and before he gets killed, and that was something that was fun. And it's an ensemble movie, and there's really, it's important that there's camaraderie between Will and all of the ensemble, right? And I think and then between all of us. So I think that was sort of part of the fun of the film, is that even though Will is kind of living in his head, and that was something that was kind of important to me, was that we don't show, where people are picking up on it in the reviews now, which is making me happy, but that we didn't ever show like shots of him around just dead bodies, right? Like to say like, no, everyone's actually dead. It's all in his mind. Well, duh. Like, of course it is, right? But to leave some ambiguity as to like what's going on, and to force you into Will's head the whole movie, you never get out of it, I think is really effective.
Jonah, the character of William is not quite likable, but not entirely unlikable. He's definitely neurotic, self-absorbed. He's, that it seemed like a tricky balance to play. Can you just speak to that a little bit? Because I mean, throughout the movie, I was kind of I mean, you know, I didn't know whether I was rooting for him or not.
Good.
Yeah, you know, it's that's like something that as we were kind of like, you know, working on it and writing it, like there was a certain point where I realized I was oh, I gotta play this guy. And I'm not like, you know, I don't subscribe to the fact that you have to root for the lead of a movie, or, you know, it's like he really is, it's you know, he is the villain of the whole thing. But like it's yeah, it was tricky because like there was some lines, you know, that we had like in there where we're like, that makes them a little too, we had to ride the line of like likability, because it's like it's funnier if you want to see him fail, you know, you want to see like, because like William's the comic foil of like, you know, the straight man in a sketch getting like befuddled with like, you know, these wacky characters, and you have to kind of have somewhat of a you can't just hate him right away. And like, so it was tricky because I knew like it was just going to fall on like, if people just didn't like me personally, they might not think the guy's like
What it's do each of you respectively view this as, I don't know, you could kind of approach this as like a bizarro coming of age story. You could approach it as sort of like a entertainment industry story of, you know, that arrogance of, well, you're not in it, so you wouldn't really understand what it's like to be a creator or an artist or whatever.
I can say how I read it because it's really Will's movie, and Jonah does such a great job with this character, and it has nuance, which is what I like about it. Is it's not a retro movie. It's really a movie about today, and it's not even about. It's just like when I read it, I was like, this is a great like social commentary on the millennial dilemma, right? But what I like about it is that Jonah plays him like, and you have to. I mean, he's right. You had to do this, but it's not easy to do this. But he's a really great of the moment lampoon of a millennial type artist guy right now, right? With all the things that you like about that guy and all the things that are really irritating about that guy. And I remember like, you know, we talked about a lot about the importance of him being a likability. And I actually like, you know, when we played the movie at the premiere, like, you are with him the whole time. Like even when, you know, I won't give it away for this, but like with what happens with him at the end, the audience was really with him. They hadn't abandoned him, right? They didn't just assume he was just, and that is hard to do. And I think it's also really important for these types of comedies where you have these kind of complicated, unreliable narrators. And, but it is a social commentary on the moment. I mean, it is like, you know, it is living in the horrible apartment and not knowing if you have any kind of future, how you can possibly have any kind of future in the society we live in. How will you end up with a house? How will you end up with a job? It's kind of dead end. And I think it's really just having fun with that.
Yeah, and
that's my opinion. Jonah may have a different one, but that's what I got when I read it.
Well, Jonah, I mean, he mentioned it earlier. It's, you know, a reference Barton Fink. It's also it's of the moment, but it's also kind of timeless of, you know,
totally. Yeah. I mean, there are horror tropes that go back to the 1920s of people in buildings where things go wrong. I mean,
a chained novelist could also be the self-absorbed TikToker of today.
Lovecraft has stories like this. So
yeah, and it's like, you know, it's, you know, like so many of, you know, Stephen King's stories are just like frustrated writer. And, you know, Inside Llewyn Davis is like, you know, that's something we pulled from too, which is like, you know, especially that scene when he had the conversation with his sister where it's like, you know, he's like, oh, you people, like, if you don't get it. And like, that's the thing where it's like, and because, you know, like I started doing like, you know, showbiz stuff like in the early 2000s, like right before like YouTube came out. And then all of a sudden everything started getting like split up and like fragmented. And like, it's like everyone was trying so hard to like battle for the attention for their little fiefdom of their little scene, of their little style. Like, it's like, you know, the thing is with you know, like William, like wanting to make a huge prog album, it's even if he does the best one, it's still not going to be big. You know, it's that thing of just like, and this is like a lot of people, like, it's like you're like, it's like, this will be huge, but it's like, you realize even if it is, it's in a subgenre of a subset of a small community that is going to dig it. And like and there's nothing wrong with that. That's like, you know, it's like, if you want to play to the audiences, but this idea that anyone, but like, because of people my age, and I'm 41, because of people my age, like we came up in a time where like the audience was less fragmented. And so in our heads, when we get to achieve to go and do something, we think that's what it's like the reaction is going to be that is what success is. And, you know, and then you realize it's like, you know, like the difference in like the top, you know, show on network television, the top like comedy is like, you know, was it 8 million a week? And that like would have got something canceled, you know, 15, 20 years ago. But now it's just like, whoa, there's a lot of people, you know. So it is a tricky thing where it's like this, like these TikTokers where it's like, oh, we got this person. And I worked in a lot of magazine TV, and I remember seeing this happen a lot where it's like I was at E Entertainment or you know, G4 TV or something. They're like, oh, we got this person coming in. That's huge. I was like, who is that? And they're like, you don't know, you know, Twinkie Ninja. They're like, they got millions and millions of people. You know, it's like,
dude, wait till you're in your 50s. Like the bigger someone is, the less likelihood I'm going to know who the hell they are.
I just call everybody Doja Cat just in case.
Well, that's like a whole separate conversation of, you know, how relative the notion of fame and success has become, that, you know, somebody could be walking down the street that's a K-pop megastar with billions of followers, and, you know, most people in Williamsburg outside my door are not necessarily going to recognize that person, even though they are, you know, a global superstar. Stars.
Yeah, you know, it's a thing that I've noticed, like a slag that people will give you online, where it's like, and I see it for like some of my older friends in show business, but like if someone doesn't like their opinion, they go like, or like someone doesn't like what someone does, they go, oh, when was the last time they were even relevant? Like relevancy is something that like is used as like an attack thing, where it's like, or say like there's certain times where I say like, oh, I really like this band. They're like, it's like, well, since they're still a thing. They're like, oh no, they found out that you specifically stopped getting their albums, and then they decided to call it quits.
There's this moment, this monologue that Will has, and he's discussing his passion for prog, and he's surrounded by blood and viscera. We've got so much going on, and they're on the floor. And I absolutely love this moment. It's both passionate, it's hilarious, it's kind of beautiful in a way.
Yeah,
There's so much going on with it. For you guys, when you reflect on what made this film fun for you, what are some of the things that come to mind?
You know, like that scene in particular, like we all really loved it. I remember when Jared Logan, one of our screenwriters, like had that scene. We all like were. It's like, it's so sweet. It's almost too sweet and poignant. And it's just like the juxtaposition of it. Like, that was like in the writing process, as we were developing the script, that was one of our favorites. And we're like, you know, and I was like, oh my God, I have a Paul Giamatti and Sideways, you know, monologue in this thing. Like, this is great. But like, you know, the fun stuff was like always with Alex, for me, you know, just because he was in the prosthetics, and it's so fun to do the make-believe kind of shit like with him. But like another fun part was like having, you know, scenes with my old friends like Tom Lennon, Ryan Kattner, guys I've known for, you know, 20 years, and then getting to do a scene with Kumail Nanjiani, who I had a show with for years on Comedy Central called The Meltdown. Like it's like, you know, just being able to be in a movie with him, like, you know, like I don't know, every day had something kind of fun, if it was a practical effect or this or that. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Alex,
it was a very artistic environment. I mean, the whole collective team and crew were super artsy and very into the themes of the movie and the type of movie that we were all making. So it added to. It wasn't an easy film to make. None are, but. So it was challenging, and we were usually focused on whatever the fire was we had to put out that day. But once the cameras were rolling, it was super fun.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things that, look, we need to cut trailers and put those out there. But I was kind of bummed when I saw the trailer, and then the Kumail scene. You know, they kind of reference that in the trailer, whereas when it happens in the film, I'm like, that would have just been such a nice, perfect surprise there. But such is the nature of selling.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not on the call. I think we're like, I was like, so we're not going to put Kumail in the trailer, right? And they're like, man, we have to. Got to sell the thing. I was like, I know, but wouldn't it be so neat? You know,
like, but it does feel between Tom Lennon, Kumail, like everybody feels like such a community project. And I was curious, was there anything that didn't quite make it into the final cut that look, you sometimes have to kill your darlings, but maybe more of the hot licks video sessions or lessons or anything that just didn't quite make it to the
I mean, we
end.
worked on the script for a really long time. So there was all kinds of stuff that just went away.
Process, yeah.
Yeah, but nothing, I don't think by the time that we got to shooting, it was like we were squeezing every piece of juice we could.
Yeah, like we were like, it's like we had to be so precise where our schedule was so tight, and always like worrying about like the practical effects taking up, because it could be something where you kind of go, oh, we'll give this a little extra time, but something could go wrong, and then it could just, your day will like get eaten up by like trying to reset these goopy things or this blood like cleaning off. It really can slow everything down. And so we had to be very precise with the stuff. In the script process, we had like a lot of fun scenes. There used to be this like, a cat also died at one point where there was an animatronic cat in the script for a little bit. There was like Mr. Meowman, I think was the name of the cat. There was there was going to be more shots of the pigs, but we could only get one pig. So there was kind of like stuff like that like, we of course like just had to streamline it the more we got in there. But like, as far as John Daly, who's, played the young swig in the videos, it's like, of course, he was just on a green screen in that outfit. And so there's probably 3 hours of him just going off, because John Daly's one of my favorite.
He's a great improv actor.
Yeah, I've known him for so long. And so like, it was one of those things where it's like, that had to kind of be a B unit thing too, where it's like he just like had to be off on his own with our second unit guy, and then none of us were concerned, because we're just like, John will give us what he's going to give us, because he's just so beautiful at being so wild and weird.
That's what we need to see. Shudder needs to release those special extra footage and whatnot. And so we're winding down, but okay. So this is such a top level boilerplate question, I guess, but I'm going to ask it. At the end of the day, do each of you personally think that all of the murder, the mayhem that is taking place and what William experiences as far as what happens after, is it in his head or is it happening in the real world? I know you're going to get this question a lot, but Alex, why don't you start?
I refuse to give away what I think, because I think that's part of what makes the movie work, is that you don't know. I think that I think that the implication is obviously that he's hallucinating everything because they're dead, right? But I just think that the fun of the film is really about the tenuousness of that in terms of sanity and what you're getting your influences from. And he's got that line. Will's got that line at the end, talking about how he got help from friends, right? And so there's an aspect of that that's true. There's an aspect of that that's impossible. So that's the ambiguity of it, and I like that ambiguity. I think it makes the movie more fun.
You really can't interpret it either way, I guess. But Jonah?
Yes. But it will be very clear once we make the prequel to Destroy All Neighbors, we find out that it was midichlorians that actually helped Will and did revive.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that the prequel is, we're not making that we got to make the 4 sequels first.
Yeah, we have to make so it's like Destroy All Neighborhoods and Destroy All Counties. I think is what's run after that.
Then the origin story.
Yeah, right. Then we go back, and then I flip.
Hey, I would show up. I would show up for more of the Will and Vlad hijinks. I'd be there for that. I guess since I think both of you, some people might know you more at this point for your work behind the camera, as well as, the stuff that you're doing and have done in front of the camera. When you're doing something like this, is it making you want to do more of one versus the other? Or is it just like, you're getting the best of both worlds? I mean, it does.
I mean, I love doing this. The thing about it, it's very rare to get a project like this. So they don't exist that frequently. So, I am going to do more acting. I just have to make more time for it. And that's what I've been doing. So I am carving more space for it. I mean, this was not unintentional. I did this and a couple other things last year because I wanted to make more time for the acting. So I have to be methodical about it because my production schedule on the other stuff is what it is. But I am going to do more acting over the next year or two. I have some stuff scheduled and planned that I'm going to do. But in terms of stuff like this, I mean, I said this back when I was doing Freaked, when I left my agency and stopped acting for 20 years. They were like, what are you doing? I'm like, I was like, I all I want to do is stuff like this, and it literally it didn't exist in the '90s. Like that's the thing about this. Everyone's saying this is retro. It's not. There was nobody making movies like this, and if you did, you were a pariah, right? Like no one liked Peter Jackson until he made Lord of the Rings in the industry. They thought he was a weirdo. Sam Raimi was the Spider-Man guy. Like they didn't like those weird zombie movies that he made. So it's not like anyone's going to offer me roles where I get to do this on a regular basis. It's not going to happen.
And also Bill Corso also did the makeup for Freaked, right?
He was primary. He did all of Ricky's stuff, and he ran makeup for all of Bill and Ted 3 with Kevin Yeager doing the designs. So I mean, there's a lot of prosthetics work out there, but I don't just like doing anything in prosthetics. I like doing extreme physical comedy stuff in prosthetics. That's what's uncommon.
Yeah. Our favorite thing about Bill Corso being on the show was that he basically left his previous job, ended, and like the next week he was on our show, and that previous job was Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
it was like, hey, thanks for making some time, award-winning artist.
Yeah, then one did the Star Wars movie. Yeah,
and left for Star Wars. That's right.
I hate to ask this kind of question, but it's also the people that pay my bills are going to want me to ask this. But looking ahead, anything that you can tease or updates about more from MST3K and from the Bill and Ted universe? Each of those, I think who should pick that up. So, Alex, how about you go first?
Well, I mean, it's no secret we're tinkering with a fourth Bill and Ted idea. Whether we get it made, whether we like it, whether it works out, who knows? But we have a really good idea. The writers have a great idea, and we're tinkering with it. But I don't know. I mean, I'm working on other stuff coming up. I don't know when that'll happen. It took us 12 years to get the last one made, so who knows?
And with Mystery Science Theater, Joel and his team are trying to figure out how to fund and figure out where a season 14 would go. I talk with them sometimes. They're trying to figure it out. But it's a show that kind of can just kind of come up for a little bit, go away, come up. It's like, those movies are always there. It's and I, always it's like, are there still movies to be done on Mystery Science Theater? And it's like, yes, you'd be surprised. And it's, that how many movies were made all the time.
Including Steamboat Willie now as part of public domain, right? So
I'm surprised the Riff Tracks guys haven't done Steamboat Willie like the day got into the public domain.
And so Destroy All Neighbors, obviously you could catch it streaming on Shudder, but you guys, when I was watching it, I was watching it alone. I'm like, I need to watch this with friends once it drops officially. But you guys are also going to be doing screenings in Alamo in New York City. You're kind of hitting all the Alamos.
Yeah, they're going to be there are quite a few theaters. We're doing Sketchfest in San Francisco, and then it'll start playing in other repertory theaters. There's a bunch of people asking us for it. It'll probably do the Prince Charles in London. It'll start hitting a circuit.
I just kind of react to that a little bit about the excitement of seeing this particular project in front of crowds in those theaters because what Will says or whatever his dad said that not everyone will get it, but the right ones will. So I don't know, just kind of give me something about seeing this in front of on the big screen with the right crowd. Jonah?
Well, the two types of movies you want to see with the crowd are horrors and comedies, and this has a little bit of both. Like a good horror movie with the crowd, there'll be clapping after a great gore gag of some sort or scary moment. With comedy, it's like you're truly experiencing a spontaneous burst of joy when everyone laughs together. I was so glad that the funniest movie of last year was Bottoms, and I saw it twice in a theater because people were in the theaters watching Bottoms and laughing, and then you realize how special that is and how things here's a good example of it's like I saw Freaked, Alex's old movie, a ton of times on TV, and I always thought it was so funny. And then I went and just recently watched it again at the New Beverly Cinema in LA with a full crowd watching it. And you realize how much more you laugh when you're around other people. And it's because it's infectious. So I think if you have a chance to see this in a theater, that's basically what it was made for. It has to be loud. it has to be, you have to have fun.
Yeah, man, I'm going to try to hit the Brooklyn one.
Yeah, the thing I'm so excited about with this is just that sort of what we've done with Freaked and I've done with a couple of other films. It's like, once you make a movie, you've made the movie. You can show that movie forever in theaters all over the place. And so I'm game for this film to have a life, just like out in the world of the circuit, for as long as people care to throw it up on a screen somewhere. So I think we're really grateful and happy it'll be on Shudder, because people are going to see it on Shudder. It will live and be seen and penetrate people's brains. But it will have a life beyond that, which is fun.
It's when I was, just as kind of an aside, the makeup of Vlad really made me think. I'm a fan of the Goon comic by Eric Powell, and as I was looking at Vlad, great. I'm like, this is a reason why the Goon could exist in live action.
Yeah.
That's an aside.
Talked about the Goon when we were working on Vlad too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I was one of those on the vision board.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a perfect face. But
yeah,
does anybody have parts of Vlad at home that you kept?
Of course, Gabe's got all of it. Gabe's got Vlad.
Yeah,
he has all of
the director
Vlad.
Josh has some intestines hanging up at his house. We had the premiere at the Arrow that Beyond Fest put on Tuesday, and we had like the bust of like that special shot we have of Vlad with his hands out like that when I throw him, and we have it's like they're all around. It's funny. It's like I usually don't like having stuff from like anything I've worked on like in my house. I always go, it's a little self-serving, but like with this show, I'm like with this movie, I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind having something, just some little weird hand, just like, on a, like mounted on a wall or something like that.
Well, those intestines were very helpful, as you could reach things, you can make music with it. So those might be things
to get my cats out of the way.
Have around. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I think that is our time, but I really appreciate it. And I'll be honest, like, you prep for interviews and you're like, you approach everything with an open mind and excited as just a fan and a nerd, but you never quite know what you're going to get. But man, when I watched this, it really brought me back to, yes, being a kid, but also like that sweet spot that you kind of need now in movies. That's just fun and it is what it is. And I just enjoyed the hell out of it. So
I'm so glad. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Alex, Jonah, thank you guys so much. And I hope we get a chance to talk again in the future. And maybe I'll see you at the Alamo out here in NYC for one of these screenings.
Great.
All right.
Come on out.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again, Aaron.
And that was Alex Winter and Jonah Ray Rodrigues. You can catch them in the new movie Destroy All Neighbors, available on the Shudder streaming service January 12th. Also, if you happen to be in a city that they're showing Destroy All Neighbors at, I would highly recommend checking this out with an audience. I know they're going to be doing some stuff at the SF Sketchfest and showing this around at various Alamo Drafthouse theaters. So catch it in person if you can. Anyhow, thanks to both Alex and Jonah for joining me for Talking Strange. I'm your host, Aaron Sagers, and until next time, be kind, stay spooky, and keep it weird.